Lucifer. From the earliest texts of human history, this name has carried both awe and fear. Known as the light bringer in some interpretations, Lucifer is often described as the most beautiful and powerful of all angels, created by God to serve as a shining example of divine perfection. Yet, his story is not one of eternal obedience. It is a tale of pride, ambition, rebellion, and the profound consequences that followed. In the scriptures, particularly in Isaiah 14 verse 12, the name Lucifer is mentioned as "how you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn." This passage has long been interpreted as a symbolic account of his fall, marking the beginning of his transformation from divine servant to adversary. In understanding Lucifer, it is essential to recognize his original status among the heavenly hosts. According to Christian theology, angels were created as beings of pure spirit, tasked with serving God and carrying out his will. Among them, Lucifer stood out. Sources describe him as radiant, powerful, and gifted with wisdom beyond other angels. His position was one of honor, a leader in the celestial hierarchy, entrusted with responsibilities that few others could bear. Yet it was precisely this position of power that planted the seeds of pride. His beauty and intelligence, instead of inspiring humility, fueled a sense of superiority. He began to question his own role, comparing himself to God, and imagining that he might ascend even higher than his Creator. This pride led to what is often called the first rebellion, though the Bible does not provide a detailed account of the rebellion in narrative form. Several passages hint at this event. Revelation 12 verses 7 to 9 describes a war in heaven where Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels. Many theologians interpret the dragon here as Lucifer, later known as Satan. This war signifies more than physical conflict. It represents a spiritual fracture, the separation of obedience from pride, and the beginning of an eternal struggle between light and darkness. Angels who followed Lucifer were cast down along with him, marking the creation of fallen angels, beings who had once shared in divine glory, but now existed outside God's immediate favor. The motivations behind Lucifer's rebellion have been the subject of centuries of theological debate. Some scholars suggest it was sheer pride, the belief that he deserved to be equal to God. Others argue it was envy, seeing humanity favored by God, with free will and the promise of redemption, while angels remained bound to servitude. The Bible, in passages such as Ezekiel 28 verses 12 to 17, describes the king of Tyre with symbolic language often applied to Lucifer. "You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you." This depiction illustrates the tragedy of a being created perfect, yet falling due to inner corruption. Lucifer's fall was not simply a loss of status. It marked the beginning of his transformation into Satan, the adversary. Where once he had been a messenger and guide within the heavenly realm, he now became a symbol of rebellion and opposition to God's plan. His story intersects with humanity in profound ways, appearing in religious texts as the tempter, the deceiver, and the force that tests faith. While angels traditionally guide and protect, Lucifer's influence represents the opposite: the manipulation of desire, the sowing of doubt, and the perversion of what was originally intended as good. Yet, it is important to recognize that even in his fall, Lucifer's power remains immense. He is described in Scripture as having authority over a host of demonic beings, capable of influencing the physical and spiritual world. This duality, once a divine servant, now a celestial adversary, is what gives his story its enduring fascination. His intelligence and charisma remain, but they are now tools used to challenge, deceive, and tempt. The paradox of Lucifer is central to understanding his role. He is simultaneously a figure of beauty and horror, of brilliance and ruin, embodying what can happen when pride supersedes obedience. History and literature have also shaped the image of Lucifer over centuries. Early church fathers, medieval writers, and poets like John Milton in Paradise Lost expanded upon the biblical accounts, describing Lucifer's inner thoughts, his sense of loss, and his defiance. While these works are not scripture, they reflect humanity's attempt to grapple with the mystery of a being whose actions caused the first great rupture in the spiritual order. They illustrate the psychological dimensions of pride, envy, and ambition, giving a face to abstract concepts of sin and rebellion. In Islamic tradition, a similar figure appears as Iblis, a being created from fire who refused to bow to Adam, citing his superiority. Though distinct from Lucifer, the parallels are striking: pride, disobedience, and the resulting exile from divine favor. Across religious traditions, the narrative remains consistent: rebellion against God, the transformation from a being of light to one of darkness, and a lasting impact on the world and humanity. Lucifer's story is not merely about punishment. It is about choice, morality, and the consequences of ambition unchecked by humility. His existence reminds humans and angels alike that power without obedience can lead to destruction, and that even beings of immense beauty and wisdom are not immune to corruption. It is a story that transcends theology, touching on universal themes of pride, temptation, and the fragile boundary between light and darkness. Lucifer's fall did not end with his exile from heaven. It marked the beginning of a far-reaching influence that would echo throughout human history. Cast from the presence of God, he assumed a new role, one that would intertwine his fate with that of humanity. No longer a messenger of divine light, he became a being of opposition, a tempter, and a strategist, seeking to challenge God's creation at every turn. Revelation 12 verse 9 captures this transformation. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. Here, the scripture emphasizes that Lucifer's fall was not an end, but the beginning of a new, relentless mission. The Bible and other religious texts suggest that his rebellion had a ripple effect, creating a host of fallen angels who shared in his pride and disobedience. These angels, once companions in the celestial order, became instruments of chaos, each carrying out Lucifer's designs in both the spiritual and physical realms. The existence of these fallen beings underscores a profound spiritual law: free will carries consequences. Even in a realm where beings were created to serve God perfectly, the choice to rebel resulted in corruption, exile, and the potential for harm to others. The narrative of Lucifer and his followers demonstrates that rebellion, once sown, spreads quickly and leaves lasting consequences. Lucifer's role as tempter is most clearly illustrated in the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Although he is not named directly in Genesis 3, later interpretations and Jewish and Christian traditions identify the serpent as Lucifer, or one of his agents. By persuading Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, he introduced sin into the human experience, transforming innocence into knowledge of good and evil. This act was not merely trickery. It was a calculated manipulation, demonstrating Lucifer's cunning, patience, and strategic mind. His ability to appeal to desire, curiosity, and pride reflects the same traits that led to his own fall: a deep understanding of temptation and the weakness inherent in creation. The consequences of this temptation were immense. Humanity was expelled from Eden, mortality and suffering became a reality, and the spiritual connection between humans and God was fundamentally altered. Lucifer, in this sense, became a permanent part of the human story, a force that shapes the moral and spiritual choices of every generation. From the fall of Adam and Eve to every moment of moral struggle, his influence can be seen as a persistent test of faith and obedience, a reflection of the ongoing tension between light and darkness. Biblical texts also describe the cosmic battle that followed. Michael, the archangel, and his loyal angels continued to oppose Lucifer and his forces. Revelation 12 verses 7 to 8 portrays this struggle vividly. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. This passage illustrates that the conflict is not merely symbolic. It is presented as a real, ongoing struggle between divine authority and rebellion, between order and chaos. Lucifer's cunning and power make him a formidable opponent, one whose influence reaches far beyond the spiritual realm into the physical world. Another aspect of Lucifer's story lies in his ability to manipulate perception. Unlike humans, he exists in a form beyond the natural senses. able to influence thoughts, desires, and actions without direct visibility. This capacity for subtle intervention makes his presence pervasive yet invisible. In historical and religious accounts, countless instances describe unexplained temptations, sudden moral failings, and spiritual unrest that are attributed to his influence. These are not random events. They are part of a larger strategy to disrupt harmony and challenge obedience to God. The Bible in 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14 notes that Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light, reinforcing the idea that his tactics are often hidden behind appearances of goodness, wisdom, or opportunity. Lucifer's story also intersects with human history in ways that scholars and theologians continue to examine. Wars, corruption, oppression, and acts of deceit are often interpreted as evidence of his ongoing influence. The idea is not that he directly causes every act of evil, but that his presence amplifies human weaknesses, turning ambition into pride, curiosity into temptation, and desire into sin. In this sense, Lucifer becomes a lens through which humanity can understand the origin of moral struggle, a reflection of the choices each individual must confront in life. The concept of fallen angels extends further into apocryphal texts and historical interpretations. The Book of Enoch, for example, describes the Watchers, angels who descended to earth and corrupted humanity, teaching forbidden knowledge and engaging in rebellion. These accounts, while not part of the canonical Bible, align closely with the story of Lucifer, emphasizing the reach and intelligence of these beings. They illustrate a pattern: beings created for light, driven by pride, ultimately acting to subvert creation. The parallels between Lucifer and these narratives reveal a consistency in human attempts to explain the existence of evil, spiritual conflict, and moral complexity. Despite his role as adversary, Lucifer remains a figure of intelligence and strategy, not chaos without purpose. His rebellion, his manipulation, and his temptation are all calculated actions, reflecting a mind capable of extraordinary foresight and planning. This makes him uniquely dangerous. Unlike random forces of nature, his actions are deliberate, aimed at undermining faith, obedience, and divine order. In literature and theology, he is often depicted as eloquent, persuasive, and charismatic, a being who challenges both angels and humans alike, not through brute force alone, but through subtle persuasion. Lucifer, even after centuries, his name continues to evoke fear, fascination, and endless curiosity. The final chapter of his story is not only about his rebellion, but about the legacy he leaves behind, how his actions shape the spiritual world, humanity, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. While the previous chapters explored his fall and influence, this chapter delves into the consequences of his defiance and the lessons embedded in his story. After being cast out of heaven, Lucifer became known as Satan, the adversary of God and humanity. Revelation 12 verse 12 describes the anger and despair that followed his defeat. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. This scripture highlights a critical aspect of Lucifer's existence. Despite his immense power, he operates under divine limitations. His wrath is formidable, but it is not absolute. He functions within boundaries set by God, reminding humanity that even the most rebellious force is ultimately subordinate to divine authority. Lucifer's influence on humanity continues to manifest in temptation, deception, and moral conflict. From the earliest stories of Adam and Eve to modern accounts of spiritual struggle, he is portrayed as a being who challenges faith at every opportunity. The Gospels describe him tempting Jesus in the wilderness, Matthew 4 verses 1 to 11, attempting to divert the Son of God from his mission. This narrative demonstrates that Lucifer's approach is not random, but highly strategic, targeting pivotal moments that could influence history and test obedience. Every human encounter, every choice between right and wrong, can be seen as part of this ongoing spiritual battle. The Bible also presents Lucifer as a master of illusion and pride. 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14 warns that Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. His ability to disguise evil as good makes him particularly dangerous. Unlike chaotic forces or natural disasters, His influence is subtle and manipulative. He appeals to desire, ambition, and curiosity, presenting opportunities in ways that seem beneficial, but ultimately lead to corruption. This duality, appearing as a bringer of light while concealing darkness, explains why his story continues to captivate human imagination, and why theologians have devoted centuries to studying his role in spiritual history. The legacy of Lucifer is also evident in the concept of fallen angels. Those who joined him in rebellion were not destroyed, but cast down to the earth, creating a hierarchy of beings opposed to God's order. These entities are often associated with sin, temptation, and the corruption of human society. The Book of Enoch and other apocryphal texts describe these angels teaching forbidden knowledge, influencing human behavior, and introducing chaos into the natural order. Through them, Lucifer's reach extended beyond the spiritual realm into every aspect of life on earth. Yet, despite his defiance, Lucifer's story is not solely one of triumph. His fall is a cautionary tale about the consequences of pride and rebellion. Ezekiel 28 verse 17 describes the tragedy vividly. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. This passage encapsulates the paradox of Lucifer, created perfect, gifted with immense beauty and intelligence, yet undone by the very qualities that made him extraordinary. His narrative is a stark reminder that no being, regardless of power or knowledge, is immune to the dangers of arrogance. Humanity's understanding of Lucifer has evolved over time. Literature, art, and cinema have expanded his story, often portraying him as a complex figure, torn between ambition and loss, pride and sorrow. While these interpretations are not scripture, they reflect a universal fascination with rebellion and its consequences. Lucifer becomes both a warning and a mirror, showing the potential for corruption in anyone who challenges divine order or moral law. His story is timeless because it reflects struggles that are intrinsic to human nature: ambition, temptation, defiance, and the search for meaning. In addition to temptation and deception, Lucifer represents the concept of free will. His rebellion illustrates that even beings created for obedience have the capacity to choose, and with choice comes consequence. Humanity shares this trait. The story of Lucifer serves as both a spiritual warning and a moral lesson. Every act of disobedience, pride, or selfish ambition echoes the first rebellion, demonstrating that the struggle between right and wrong is ongoing, both in the human heart and in the cosmos. The final aspect of Lucifer's legacy is the ultimate reconciliation of divine order. Scripture teaches that evil, no matter how powerful, will not prevail forever. Revelation 20 verse 10 describes the final judgment, and the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. This scripture reassures that Lucifer's power is temporary and that divine justice is inevitable. His rebellion, though significant and far-reaching, does not overturn the eternal plan. It exists as a test, a warning, and a challenge, but ultimately, it is subject to the authority of God.